Hello, Olivia.
Hello, Martha.
This morning we're talking to Professor Amzallag, Olivia Amzallag, Assistant Professor of French at the University of Delaware in Newark, not Newark. Um, and she had something very interesting to say, submitted it in written form, and we've of course published it as an educator voice feature. So, Olivia, you came up with a very interesting paradox in the education of language educators compared to how they're expected to educate. So what did you write about, and how did you come to sit down and actually write it down?
Well, it was a very interesting path. I went through the same education that most of the New York State educators go through, doing all my exams. And as I'm going through my master's degree portion, I started thinking, well, this is real. It's really impractical for me to have to lug around all this stuff every time I had to give a lesson. So we all had, mini lessons to give during methods classes, and I would lug around toys and tools and everything else. And I got to the classroom and you'd have to unpack everything, and then you would give this lesson. And it really hit me that what was happening is we were going through a skills-based course, but without a skills-based classroom, meaning we were in whatever classroom that the college could provide. Most of the time it was a smart board or a blackboard, but none of the tools for educators. And this happened because I was in the secondary education program. So then I was master's graduate assistant, and I was working in the department and saw that those elementary school student educators had their own classrooms, and they had books and they had toys and they had all kinds of fun things with which to learn to teach. So it really stemmed out of, for me, it was a need to start a custom making, so gaining a little bit more experience with the physical environment by giving the educators the things that they would need in the classroom later on as educators. Not just say, pretend you have tools or pretend you have plastic food and markers, but really have markers and be able to show hands-on projects. So ultimately, I thought that was missing from my own education. And when I went into the master's program, I decided to do a holistic education program. Instead of just a master's, I decided to take a holistic program that I designed through the interdisciplinary studies at Fredonia, which was wonderful. They gave me this power to say, maybe the physical environment matters in how we train teachers. So it took a really long time for me to get to the PhD place, where after years of teaching at high school and in these high school, middle school environments myself, I said, my goodness, I was so unprepared when I got into my student teaching semester, not because I didn't have all the theories, but because I didn't have the practice. So just like anything else, language is a practice, and we can theoretically say it would be better to be a communicative teacher and it would be better to do hands activities and group work really works. But until we know how to organize that group, when I started going in and supervising the student teachers later on in life, I noticed they didn't know how to count people off by threes. So just little organization skills that really could help them in the classroom with time management and everything else, we could have taught them in their education classroom had we just had a classroom to do that in, within which this environment, where it was a rich environment, they had a lot of fun things that they could work with. So ultimately, I kind of just decided to seize this big, huge office that was getting transitioned, and they were going to put a whole bunch of TAs in this office. It was a large office, and I begged the program, please just give me this office. And what I want to do is I want to create a classroom in this office. And it was it was a little bit more like a half classroom. And I said, let's set this office up. So I went to the community of teachers. I said, can you give me all your extra posters and your markers and everything that you feel that you don't need in your classroom anymore? We are looking for donations so that the next student teachers coming into your classroom will know how to use that smart board, will know how to get and pull up those PowerPoints properly in the tech, but at the same time, count people off by threes. So, or give them the little animal pair things where they can pair up their students. So just a lot of ideas that I think we skip over when we're doing a lot of theory. And the hands-on is supposed to come in student teaching, but that's when they have real kids in front of them. It would be really beneficial to have them practice a little bit earlier in their study. So, if you go through 4 years of school and you don't really hit anything to the last semester for practice, it's not really a hands-on learning. So
Yeah,
that's
you're expected to teach hands-on learning and do experiential work in the classroom.
Well, that's where the paradox came in. Most of the time, every time I actually had an education class, it was very lecture format telling me how to teach communicatively. And so I kept thinking, well, why aren't they teaching me communicatively so that I understand this concept better and that I'm able to apply the concept through the modeling of the teachers and the professors? So as I became a methods teacher later on, I started modeling my methods classes around even the theories, around how do I get that theory in a group work communicative way? How would Van Patten put this together, right? How would other people try to get together and say, well, why are we teaching theory? And the theories we're teaching are not reflected in our own teaching.
Mhm. So the change that you would like to see wrought based on your educator voices rant is in teaching colleges and where world language educators are learning how to teach, you would like the following change to take place.
I would like to see world language educators who are teaching the next educators actually embody the theorem that they're making us teach. So the change that could happen, we could get classrooms that were fully equipped and were education classrooms where we can keep portfolios and we can go on with running projects and do a lot of modeling and hands-on work. Hands-on work with the theory we need to learn, but at the same time showing them how they can take that language and make it work in a less theoretical way. So I've always said my passion has always been education, but I want to be the bridge between that theory and that classroom. So now I get to train some TAs and I in my current position, and I really feel like they're taking the education classes, they have all that theory, and they come to me with the question is like, but how do I do it? And I was, okay, what are we teaching? Let's start there. And you pick a topic and you go, all right, the past tense, this is real hard. How do we teach the past tense communicatively? Are we going to walk up into our classroom and say, today we are learning the past tense. This is the past tense of the verb to eat. I eat, I ate, you ate. Or are we going to say something, give them some way of communicating that same thing authentically? So the change we really could have beyond just being models is having that classroom be a model and getting those education students into practice way before their last semester. First semester, let's see what you look like teaching a class. Let's give each other critiques. What worked, what didn't work, doing those reflections in a fully supported environment where they feel like they're going to be teachers and they know how to use their environment.
This doesn't sound like a heavy lift. It sounds like something that could and probably should be happening paulatinamente. I can't think how to say that in English. Bit by bit across world language education venues across the nation. Is that feasible? Do you think that's something that could happen?
Absolutely. I'm working with a colleague who does the Spanish side of the TA training, and we're both in communication all the time about the same conversation. What really needs to come into place, maybe it would be an administrative push to say, okay, maybe this is actually valuable, because now the younger version of the teacher trainer people coming into education as language education educators, we're kind of like the teacher trainers that really do want to bring them that communicative stuff. And I'm seeing a lot more of us trying to bring that to our classroom. What needs to happen is really the environment now and get that supported. I don't know if that all the teachers go through the same problems and we don't really address them. How do you make up a test in your office when you don't have a desk? I asked my administrator, can I just get a little, the little desks with the little chair? Can I get one in my office? And that was a big deal. I still don't have one. And I don't understand why that environmental piece seems to be put on the back burner, like it's not important, when truly we are now starting to understand that we're more than just head people, we're physical people, this holistic idea, especially in this day and age of, depression and anxiety. To have those physical things around us supporting us really could make all the difference. And if it's a matter of a desk in your office, or if it's a matter of being able to go to the same classroom and have your classes being held in the same classroom so that you can get familiar with that classroom and feel comfortable in it, well, those are things that teachers really grow into. We don't become good teachers right away. It takes time. So the earlier we put and implement that teaching into the education, the better they're going to be, right?
Yes, thank you. You've had your say, and I truly hope that the change that you envision comes to pass. And the language educator is so pleased to give voice to your opinions on this. I think they're valid, and I hope that a wonderful dialogue ensues. Thank you so much, Professor Amzallag.
Thank you so much, Martha. This has been such a pleasure.
And for me. Take care.
You too.